Hi, I'm Ron Belldegrun, co-founder and CEO here at ByHeart, and I'm so excited for our amazing group of speakers today. Here at ByHeart, 5 years ago, we decided that the only way to raise the bar on sourcing and be fully accountable to parents from farm to formula was to acquire and own our manufacturing, source all our ingredients directly from values-aligned partners, and oversee our entire supply chain. And we've gotten the pleasure to meet so many wonderful people and companies throughout that journey that put in so much heart to just raise the bar for industry and ensure only the very best for babies. So I'm really thrilled to bring some of those together here. We have authorities in clean label like Jackie, partners that set the standard for grass-fed organic and regenerative like Carl, CEO at Maple Hill, and other companies who we just really respect that are doing great work holding themselves to very high standards, like Evelyn, CEO at Yumi. And of course, our very own Hilary Sibert, SVP of Quality at ByHeart, who has built our supply chain quality systems ground up. This conversation will focus on the standards that we hold ourselves to with a clean label and how important it is for parents to pay attention to what's in their child's food and formula. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Jaclyn Bowen, the Executive Director at Clean Label Project. Hi, Jackie.
Hey, it's good to see you.
So great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, we are so proud that ByHeart will be the first infant formula to receive your highest purity award, awarded by Clean Label Project. And in general, as you know, we're huge fans of what you are doing there. You've been a huge inspiration to us, and we spent years building systems to be able to meet your standard, which has been really an amazing process for us. So we're grateful. So again, thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm grateful for your commitment. Thank you for that.
So let's dive in to the questions I have for you about Clean Label. Maybe we can start, Jackie, from talking a little bit about what is Clean Label and sort of when and why did Clean Label start?
Yeah, so Clean Label Project, we're a 501c3 nonprofit with the mission to bring truth and transparency to food and consumer product labeling. So, at its core, let's be honest, marketing departments can do a really effective job at selling comfort and security. So, for us at Clean Label Project, it's about analytical chemistry because, frankly, analytical chemistry test results don't lie. The reason why Clean Label Project started is that over the past several years, you see this proliferation of on-package label claims, things like certified organic, non-GMO project, certified gluten-free, all of which are personally and professionally important to me. But at the same time, what I see continuing to play out in mainstream media are things like levels of glyphosate in America's best-selling breakfast cereals, levels of heavy metals in America's best-selling baby foods and formulas, levels of BPA leaching from product packaging into finished products. The kicker is that these products are largely compliant in the court of law. In the court of public opinion, it's a different story. So, what we look to do is we see this growing divide. Consumers have a different level of expectation when it comes to safety. And that is especially true when it comes to new parents. So, for us, it was one where we've got to just look at what it is that consumers want, what I want as a parent, and what is reasonable to expect from a baby food and infant formula company when it comes to quality and safety.
So interesting. Maybe talk a little bit or tell us a little bit more on, Jackie, how you see kind of Clean Label sort of distinguish itself in terms of sort of the rigor for your certification.
So for Clean Label Project, the thing is, in the absence of federal regulation, we use benchmark data. What does that mean? It means that we actually went into the marketplace, we purchased products off grocery store shelves just like consumers do. The only difference is we took them to analytical chemistry lab in order to get tested for things like total arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, pesticides, plasticizers, things like phthalates, BPA, BPS. Then what we do is we take all of that data and then we look to compare products versus this benchmark data. How does this product stack up to all the other ones? What we look to do is create an evidence-based certification program to show that a product is quantitatively superior, not based on marketing, but based on science.
So great. I'll tell you what we find so compelling about Clean Label Project. At ByHeart, we always say in a space as fundamental as baby, you can't, set it and forget it. right? We're constantly focused on continuous improvement. And clean label, from what I understand, in a way builds that in, by making the standards to qualify a relative one, meaning only the very top in the category certify. It seems to mean that as standards increase each year and industry pushes themselves to be better each year, you need to kind of continue to stay at the top of the class to recertify. And so it's so important the way it seems like you ensure industry also keeps improving. Can you talk about that a bit? Do you feel like Clean Label has helped set a new standard in food categories?
Oh, absolutely. And I loved how you explained that. You're exactly correct. When it comes to clean label project certification, we use a concept, like I described, called benchmarking. Think of it almost like making the honor roll in high school. When it comes to things like heavy metals, pesticides, and plastics, I think we can all agree that less is always better than more. So, in that case, when we're able to take your product and compare it to the other products or the 91 other formulas that we've tested, we're able to look at and say, how does this product stack up? Just like if you were in high school and you had a variety of classes, doesn't mean you need to get an A plus or 100% in every class, but it means so long as you take all of those different test results of several hundred different contaminants, so long as your product is in that top 30%, you essentially make the Clean Label Project honor roll.
Jackie, obviously, organic, is a topic that a lot of parents, a lot of consumers are really, really focused on. How do you think about organic within the context of clean label, and how important is the certification of organic when you're talking about quality? Talk through that a little bit for us.
Sure. So when it comes to certified organic, after testing probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of food and consumer products. I can tell you this, the organic promise of less exposure to pesticides absolutely holds true. The National Organic Program is a federally regulated program to make sure that products that carry the National Organic Program seal meet the strict requirements of the National Organic Program. However, with all programs, there are limitations. The National Organic Program does not cover contaminants like heavy metals. These things, heavy metals, are introduced into the soils through things like mining, fracking, industrial agriculture. They're also naturally present in the Earth's crust.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to things like, being certified organic, the reality is that less than 1% of agricultural land here in the US is certified organic. Because of that, inadvertent drift can occur. Because of that, it's just one where our soils don't have that density, that nutritional density that they once did. So it really comes down to really progressive manufacturers voluntarily choosing to think about food safety differently. Organic is an important commitment, but it's one where organic can't cover everything related to food safety.
Right. Interesting. That's interesting how you think about the kind of two certifications almost working together in that way. And you've mentioned a few times, heavy metals. I mean, obviously, there's been a huge amount of chatter around the congressional headlines from earlier this year on heavy metals in baby food. And Clean Label Project has been squarely focused on this. I think, well before headlines hit earlier this year. Can you talk a little bit about how, if at all, interest in the certification has increased following these headlines, and what kind of stance you're sort of taking in this broader debate?
So, Clean Label Project, we did our initial baby food study starting to go into the marketplace and pull samples more than 5 years ago. We were recognizing that, there's something's not right here. It's one where you look at product labels. Parents want more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff, but the only thing that shows up on product labels is the marketing and then the nutritional density. But it's a matter of kind of looking at this other stuff too. And it was one where we initially did our baby food investigation as well as pulling infant formula samples. So it was over 500 samples we pulled from the marketplace, and we actually went through peer review publication on it, published it in the academic journal Science of the Total Environment. And it's been one where, at that time, Clean Label Project was one of the only voices talking about this whole issue of heavy metals. And one thing I want to make sure that we're clear on, in no way do I think that there's any kind of brand or products out there that people are intentionally peppering their product with heavy metals or pesticides. Quite the contrary. I do think that brands want to do the right thing. But in the absence of federal regulation mandating that brands go and test their products for things like heavy metals, plastics, pesticides, this type of thing doesn't happen. So it's about proactive, progressive brands paying attention to this stuff.
Absolutely. And I think the entire panel we have here today can certainly agree with that sentiment. And is actually a good segue to sort of my last question for you, kind of last topic for you before we move to the rest of the panel is, look, we're really proud to be the first infant formula in the US that is clean label certified. I'm curious to hear from you why you think there hasn't been others to receive that award in this space.
It's a great question. The Clean Label Project certification, it's not an easy one, but really cracking the code, for a Clean Label Project, it all comes down to supplier assurance. It all comes down to ingredient quality. Garbage in equals garbage out. What that means, it's about putting really stringent requirements on those suppliers, really being a stickler when it comes to not only the taste, flavor, and nutritional density of those ingredients, but also looking for things like heavy metals, pesticides, plastics. All of those play a critical role in the overall finished product that is given to baby. So in this case, it's one where making these type of commitments, it's not required by law. It's voluntary. The brands that are enrolled in Clean Label Project certification are voluntarily choosing to think about food safety differently and aligning their expectations with the consumer expectation of safety and quality for the betterment of both babies as well as the environment.
Right. And from what you've seen firsthand, why do you feel ByHeart was able to receive this award?
It's one where, ByHeart, you guys have taken a really interesting approach uh, to kind of Clean Label Project certification, and really approach an interesting approach to food manufacturing. It's one where you can, with the vertical integration of your organization, it's almost one where you're able to be a better predictor of finished quality because you can almost predetermine the inputs. You can make sure to preserve that soil quality. You can make sure that even during that manufacturing practice, that manufacturing process, that different contaminants are not introduced. You're able to kind of predetermine your product's compliance, which is amazing to see. Having more control over your ingredient supply is ultimately a very critical control point within overall product safety.
That's so interesting, Jackie. And maybe one of the last questions I'll just end on is, what do you see as the future of kind of baby food? Like, where is industry going? Do you think?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when it comes to food in general, I definitely see food toxicology as really being the future of food. Right now, we're having a lot of conversations about heavy metals in baby food and infant formula. But at the end of the day, heavy metals is not a baby food problem. This is a food problem. Baby food manufacturers are sourcing ingredients from farms, and at the end of the day, it comes down to that soil quality. So what I think you're seeing right now is the very tip of the spear of what is going to be a major shift in food safety policy, and it's going to start with baby. Ultimately, it's one where we're going to care about baby, but then we also care about pregnant moms and what are they eating. It's one where all of a sudden after that first 1,000 days, when you see little kids, entering preschool, is it one where we don't care about heavy metals then? What about one where, teenagers or senior citizens or other vulnerable populations? All of these heavy metals play a critical role in terms of, determinants of health or adverse health effects in the long term. So I see the future of food as, definitely food toxicology, and you're going to see a lot more conversations in the near future around heavy metals in food.
It's fascinating. So you think this is sort of starting with, what we like to say is the world's most vulnerable consumer, our infants, but you actually see this broadening into a much broader food topic, over the coming months or years or what have you.
Absolutely. I see this as just the door is starting to open on what will be a really big shift in food policy happening at the FDA level, definitely.
Right. Well, with that, Clean Label Project will only become more important and more broad, it seems like. So, another example of just the incredible work you guys have done well out in front, I guess, of all of this, all these headlines that have hit earlier this year and all the consumer focus on it now. So, it's fantastic to see.
Absolutely. It's one where we've been very grateful. Clean Label Project has been able to work with a lot of amazing progressive brands that are looking to do right by America's families and babies.
So, on that note, we're now going to bring in a few of our friends to continue this conversation, who have also done just wonderful work, driving industry forward. So I'd love to welcome Evelyn Rusli, founder of Yumi, Carl Gerlach, president and CEO of Hill Creamery, and finally Hilary Sibert, SVP of Quality at ByHeart. Hi, guys. We're all here today because we all believe in a similar goal, getting cleaner labels on shelves and the mission to really spread information on its importance. So let's get started. I have a bunch of questions to ask. I'm going to ask each question individually, but I encourage any of you to please jump in if you have anything to add. So let's start with you, Evelyn. Evelyn, why did you pursue clean label certification?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Again, a big part of Yumi is coming from a science-based perspective, right? And so we think about all the dimensions that entails. So whether that's on the nutrient density side, ensuring that kids have enough nutrition during these pivotal years, and it's also about limiting the aspects that of food that might harm them, right? So exposure to heavy metal and knowing that during the 1,000 days, that critical period from in utero to age 2, that they're particularly vulnerable during this period. So, for example, one of the things that have come out of these conversations is increasing awareness around the supply of rice and how oftentimes, it is contaminated with heavy metals, including arsenic. And so that's actually one of the reasons why we have never had rice in our baby food products since day one. And so, actually, my background my family is part Asian. My co-founder, her family's part Asian. As adults, it's actually a major part of our diet. But as we were building out the product pipeline for the company, we really thought about all these different ways to make our food as nutritious and as supportive for a child's development as possible. And so part of that is thinking about how do you limit heavy metals in the food supply. So one of that is like picking and choosing which ingredients that you incorporate in your meals, also even where the ingredients come from. So one of the things that we do at Yumi is that we look at the federal data around soil quality that they release every year, the EPA releases, and try to think about, okay, what are the regions that we might typically avoid? Which regions are better sources when you're getting produce from? And so it's thinking about it from many dimensions, but it is in large part because heavy metals disproportionately impact the most vulnerable parts of the population, and that is children who are growing their brains, enormously during this period. So, we believe that if you take a science-based approach to kids' nutrition, and if that's a big pillar of what you stand for, you can't leave that out of the equation.
Absolutely. That's so great and such a great story. Um, as you guys, pursued clean label, what are some of the other standards of quality that you guys kind of hold yourself to as well?
Yeah, so in addition to thinking about, heavy metals, and in addition to thinking about nutrient density, we also think about exposure during this period. So between the age of 3 to 4, clinical studies have shown that that's actually when children have largely set their taste buds. And obviously, you can continue to evolve who you are as an eater through life, but a lot happens during that critical window. And so we focus on variety. And so it is this concept of eating the rainbow, which sort of kills two birds with one stone. One, if you're eating the rainbow, that probably translates to a variety in nutrition. But then also, if you're eating the rainbow, you're getting a variety of taste. And so getting that variety of taste allows a child to evolve and create a more complex palate by the time they're between the age of 3 to 4 when it's set. So everything that they're eating prior to that, even in the womb, is actually impacting what their future taste buds will be. The other thing we think about that we think is really important, and that there's also been movement, I think, from a national conversation perspective, is around the amount of fructose, the amount of sugar in foods, right? So no added sugars, of course,
Yep.
but also thinking about the total amount of fructose when kids are transitioning from that 6 months, because you want them to have more complex taste buds, lower proclivity for future metabolic diseases, thinking about the total amount of fructose and the fiber to fructose ratio. So how are their bodies also metabolizing sugars? And so those are some of the kind of key pillars that we look for. But again, it comes down to the science, and how do you take a science-based approach to solving for nutrient needs during this time?
Right. That's so great. So interesting. Thank you so much, Evelyn. That's great to hear about. Um, I'm going to jump next to you, Carl. Carl, you focus on, your clean standards and having a high quality product, but how do you make sure that you're avoiding anything harmful to your herds and therefore your product? Can you share some of your quality practices with regard to animal welfare, kind of really to produce higher quality milk?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we have a very stringent protocol we go through for selecting any farms that sell to Maple Hill. So we investigate, are they good farm practices? Do they treat their animals well? Do they make sure they abide by all the rules and regulations around organic? And then we test milk from every time a drop of milk is picked up, it's tested through a very rigorous process. So last year we did 32,450 individual quality tests on every single farm that was picked up over the last 12 months. And all of those data are collected, and we evaluate not just that individual milk that was tested, but we look at it over the series of, in some cases, 3 to 4 years to say, are they better? Is it improving? So we hire them right, we incent them, and then we evaluate every single time milk is picked up. Does it comply with our quality standards? And it's expensive, it's rigorous, but it's what we need to do to make sure that absolutely everything that we sell is as we say it is.
Carl, one of the things that I think probably everyone on this panel probably agrees on is, you know, a clean end product isn't just about what you come out the door with, but really the process and how you do it kind of along the way. Can you share a little bit about Maple Hill's practices and how they're sort of different from a regenerative standpoint, and how in addition to ensuring highest quality of your milk, also are sort of giving back to kind of the planet more specifically?
Yeah. So we made a decision 15 years ago to get into grass-fed organic milk. And so the grass-fed piece, what it really does is it adds into it the massive regenerative benefits. So, the regenerative agriculture, when you look at sort of the textbook, it's really around a dairy and dairy farming and grass-fed organic in particular. The animals, because of the way they're out on pasture every day. They improve the soil fertility. When you see the amount of grasses and other things that are growing on the property, it's amazing when you see it before grass-fed organic farming practices to grass-fed organic farming practices. It is literally the best way to sequester carbon, and it also produces the highest quality milk. And so what we say is grass-fed organic is good for the environment, it's good for the animals, it's good for the farmers, it's a much more sustainable practice, and in the end it's great for the consumer. So all of that quality in farm practices really turns out to have the best product in the industry. And so it's really like a no compromise kind of an approach that we've taken, but we intentionally decided 15 years ago to be in grass-fed organic, which is the pinnacle organic milk sold in the U.S.
Sounds like a real win-win-win across the board, and you guys have done such an amazing job really developing that standard quite literally in this country. So great to hear about that. Thank you, Carl. I'll say we're really grateful to have Maple Hill Creamery as part of the ByHeart team, and there are just that there are even companies like yours that take care and such attention to detail so that we can make formulas and foods using only the highest quality and nutritious ingredients, which really brings me to Hilary. Hi, Hilary.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We are so proud to have you on the team at ByHeart, and so grateful for all the amazing wins you've had this year and over the past years for quality. My first question that maybe we'll start with here is, we built ByHeart to always have quality as sort of a North Star. How did you specifically build the quality program?
I mean, I always say you can't test quality in. That means you can't rely solely on testing at the end of a process, but rather you need to build preventive safety measures and assurances that are applied even before ingredient contracts. We start building our quality program prior to sourcing ingredients in most cases, vetting materials to understand, what form of the ingredient is a lower risk, how will the material affect our physical attributes, and how we need to alter our distinct small batch blending process to yield that ingredient's quality and nutritional benefit. I take very much pride in this. Our auditing process for each supplier takes over 1,000 hours and includes nearly 110 steps, and occurs every year. Every year, each supplier and partner is reviewed again. We work with our partners to take quality specs to the next level. When we first started sourcing ByHeart's recipe, a contaminant called 3-MCPDs were being talked about by experts in Europe as a potential carcinogen. And we immediately started working with our suppliers to ensure that 3-MCPDs never made it into our products. We're attuned that, we were attuned to that carcinogen years before agencies concern. We focus on heavy metals when congressional headlines hit either. So it's our responsibility, and it's the industry's responsibility to stay current on the science and to ensure that we're building the latest and greatest into our programs. For instance, one of the predominant proteins in breast milk is called alpha-lactobumin. We partnered with Arla on their regulatory GRAS submission, which is an FDA requirement, in order to prove our alpha-10 protein is safe for use in infant formula. It's a new advancement in infant formula recipe. We'll continue to bring the latest advancements in nutrition science to the industry based on, breast milk's blueprint. Ron, ultimately, we have the capability to dig in with each partner and really lift each standard of supply because we have direct relationships and we produce in a facility that we own and we have direct control over.
That's great. Thanks so much for elaborating. Maybe as we take it back to some of the great discussion, that Carl kind of kicked off here, as we think specifically about kind of milk supply, what considerations were kind of taken as a company when we were approaching that ingredient?
Yeah, I mean, we always prioritized, two things, and one is retaining, the nutritional quality of our ingredients, and two is reducing the risk of microbial contamination. The milk supply chain that we created is to support ByHeart's infant formula whole milk, which is an ingredient that we exclusively will have in infant formula market in the U.S. We purposely designed our reduced step process flow from cow to ByHeart facility to be continuous with limited holding times and process steps from receipt to spray drying the milk into powder and to ensure the fresh grade A whole milk. Farmers' practices for herd health, for pasture care are also highly important to us when we selected partners for our milk supply. We pay attention also to farmer welfare. Our partners are fairly paid, have independence, and they have support for education on best practices for animal and soil health, amongst other things. Beyond certifications, we rigorously assess the areas where the farms are located, the travel routes the milk takes for the uphold of our environmental security and safety measures. We've been so lucky to work with partners like Carl and his team at Maple Hill. It takes a lot to meet our high standards. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the relentless hard work of Maple Hill's team and all their wonderful member farmers.
Yeah, Carl, you probably know all about that. I'm sure we haven't made it too easy on your side, but thanks, Hilary, for that. Before we sign off, I think maybe we'll just do a quick fire from all panelists. The question I want to pose with you all is, in general, what is the biggest thing parents should look out for on labels? What should all the parents that are watching this panel, what should they know? What do they need to know, do you think?
So for me, it's what I would encourage consumers to do is be a consumer advocate. Ask questions and demand answers. Social media is an amazing forum in order to pose questions, especially when you have some of your family's favorite foods. It's a matter of making sure that you see the label claims, but pop the hood, kick the tires, and get to know the facts behind the claims.
In terms of advice, it is, get educated, activate, and also, think about what's behind the label, right? Like ask those questions and demand that from the companies that, you buy from. So I really think that it is a big part is a movement from customers in terms of demanding that. Families should demand this. There should be higher standards, holding regulators and companies accountable for it. So, and the best thing that you can do is to really get smart on it, to understand that there's a lot of myth busting that also needs to happen. We hear a lot from parents who say, well, I could cook or I could just purchase organic, and that doesn't solve 100% the question when it comes to heavy metals. And so again, it's becoming an informed consumer and reading labels and demanding more from companies.
Right. I think the other thing is certification, right? There's one level you can trust, and then there's another level. Clean label is a great example. Certification is the most important and powerful way of guaranteeing or increasing the likelihood you're getting what you think you're getting. So organic certification, grass-fed organic certification, clean label certification, non-project GMO certified certification. All of those are absolutely essential. And consumers are learning more about how rigorous those actually are, which I think makes it such a more contemporary way of buying products. It's proved to me that it is what you say it is, which is, I think, appropriate given where we're at in the food industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, one message from my end would be, have a voice. We're listening. That's what helps us improve all the time, every day. We're all here in this industry to serve and to support it and to make it better. So, we have interest, just like, the products that we're serving the communities we're in. So definitely have a voice and speak. We'll be listening.
So, well, on that note, I want to just thank all of the panelists, not just for the great conversation here today and for being part of it, but for all the tireless work you guys all do to do exactly that and keep driving the industry forward and guaranteeing the absolute best for babies, but for all consumers that your company serve, and Jackie for all of the industries that Clean Label is working to continue to raise the bar and drive great performance. So thank you guys so much for being here. This was really great.
This is great.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.